Hey again, everybody. I'm gonna do another one of these interview segments for you. Got a good response from the one a couple weeks ago. Sorry it took a couple weeks, but been busy. Uh, anyway, today I want to talk about it's kind of an origin story as well as a road story combined, and I want to talk about how I got started on Cape Cod. So anybody who followed me on Facebook and what have you, you know that I was very successful on Cape Cod. And let me tell you how that got started. Back in the year 2009, I had begun, not only was I doing my own shows, Elvis and Neil Diamond and the like, but I was also doing the Wiggles. Some of you guys might remember that out there. Toot, toot, chug, a big red car. Me and Captain Chris Loring and the other guys that did the show. And what was only supposed to be 4 or 5 shows turned into, almost 4 years. At any rate, I was familiar with the band shell in Onset, over by Mark Anthony's in Onset Beach there. And I remember seeing shows there when I was a kid, and I wondered, how does somebody get booked at the Onset Band Shell? How does somebody play Onset? Which, of course, is not Cape Cod technically, but anyhow. I called the town hall. Yeah, I called the town hall, and they said, oh, you want to get in touch with a woman named Cat Jones, whom I'd never met before. And I contacted Cat and talked to her. I think I contacted her via email. I don't remember if it was email or phone. It might have been phone initially, or it might have been email. It was so long ago. This is 10 years ago, people. Anyway, the short of the long is she was already booked for the season, but she said, I'm going to put you in touch with somebody who I think can use you. And so she put me in touch with Christine Mascot. Both these people on my Facebook friend list, by the way, along with Christine's husband, Paul. And they were booking the acts for an event called Arts Alive in Falmouth, Massachusetts, and on Cape Cod, of course. And so we didn't get it together that year because it was a little too late. I think we were a little too last minute. But what ended up happening was the following year, was it the following year? No, that's right. I put it on the back burner for a while. And in 2011 was when I finally got back in touch with Christine Mascot, and we had lined up the first Elvis spot, because by then the Wiggles guys and I were kind of trying to figure out what our next move was, and ultimately we ended up ending the group that year, primarily because of dissension among the real Wiggles. That's a whole other story. But I got the Elvis show booked at Arts Alive in 2000. I want to say, was 11 the first year? I want to say it was, but I can't remember. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. No, 12. It was 2012 because it was after I got fired from Best Buy. So, not bitter or anything. So it was 2012. So really a lot of time had gone by. 2012, I got booked at Arts Alive for the first time in Falmouth as Elvis, the Elvis Experience. I was in the white Aloha from Hawaii suit. Did a wonderful set. And apparently impressed a lot of people. I remember one gentleman in particular who walked up to me after the show and said, "Sir, please tell me you have business cards." I said, "Yes, I do." I'd actually left a pile of business cards with Lisa and Ari at the table. It was like cabaret style. It was like tables and chairs in the area where I was performing, because it was the library tent. That was how that tent was set up. Christine, Paul, if I'm wrong, correct me, please. But that's how I remember it anyway. So this guy asked for business cards. I gave him a small stack, and he's like, "You're going to be hearing from people." And I was like, "Well, thank you. Thank you very much." Not thinking anything of it, because people do that all the time. People take cards and they say, "Oh, I'm going to call you. You're going to hear from so and so." Well, lo and behold, that was on a Saturday or a Sunday. I think that might have been a Saturday. Yeah, it was a Saturday. And lo and behold, Monday or Tuesday, I heard from the Barnstable Senior Center, which is the largest senior center on Cape Cod. I had actually seen an episode of Chronicle on WCVB Channel 5 out of Boston, and they had done a Cape Cod episode, and the Barnstable Senior Center was one of the places that they talked about. And they had said that it was the largest senior center on Cape Cod. And I said, wow, it'd be great if I could play there. Well, lo and behold, they got my card, they got my number somehow. And before you knew it, I was booked there. And it was a sold out crowd, so to speak. It was a full room that sat easily, I think, about 150, maybe 200 people. I mean, it was a huge room. And that was a success. And then there were people there at the show saying, hey, can we have a card? Can we have a card? And I'll never forget that I was doing the da-da-da, Elvis has left the building, blah, blah, blah. And I went up the aisleway, and the woman stopped me and said, have you ever played in Franklin? I said, I'll talk to you in a minute. And I did my exit. That was Joanne Pasquantonio. You're on my friend list, too. Out of, up in, where are you? Framingham. Yeah, Framingham. I think. Franklin, sorry. Framingham. Franklin. You're up in Franklin. I just said Franklin, too. Franklin, you forgot your coat. Anyway, night shift. I came back and then was posing for pictures and talking with people. I made the cover of the Cape Cod Times. There's photos of it on my Facebook page. And I'll never forget it. I was just like, wow, this hit big. It hit a lot bigger than I expected. And the next place to call was the Falmouth Senior Center, only fitting. And I did the Elvis show over there in the white suit once again. And then I get a phone call from a guy named Pat McLaughlin, who lived in Osterville. And he wanted me to come to his house. And he was having a party for his wife, who was celebrating a landmark birthday. I won't give away the number because that's not very gentlemanly, but she was celebrating a landmark birthday, and she was a big Elvis fan, and he wanted me to come and do Elvis in his house for his wife. And he paid me $150 to come in and fed me too, to come in and do Elvis for an hour in his house. And then there was 2 or 3 people there who saw me at the Falmouth Senior Center show. They saw me at Arts Alive, and they saw me in Barnstable. They were kind of following me every time they found out I was going to be somewhere. And then finally, one of the gentlemen walked up and said, when are you coming to Dennis? I said, I'll give them a call. And he says, don't worry. I know the director. I'll go talk to them. I said, okay. This was on a Saturday night. Monday morning, late morning, probably about 10, 11 o'clock, I get a call from Dennis. And the Dennis Senior Center brought me in. And I did Elvis, but I did the blue suit, the blue and silver suit. Because I realized that a lot of the same people were coming to the shows. So, okay, I want to give them something different. So I gave them the blue and silver suit over there in Dennis. And then before you know it, Brewster, they booked me for Elvis. Yarmouth booked me for Elvis. And some time went by because the tourist season was over, but in the winter months, there just wasn't really a lot going on there. But Dennis brought me back to do Legends of Vegas a couple times, to do Neil Diamond, to do Jimmy Buffett, to do Jukebox Memories. They brought me back for a lot of shit. Dennis, I think, booked me more, almost. We'll get to another center in a minute, but Dennis booked me a lot. Then word went out to Harwich and Chatham. Now, Chatham booked me 3 times. They booked me for Elvis, Legends of Vegas, and Jimmy Buffett, 4 times, and Cowboy Sam, which is my country show. So Chatham booked me 4 times, but the record holder on Cape Cod that even surpassed Dennis was Harwich. Harwich had a Monday night supper series where they would have entertainers or speakers come in, and they served a big dinner. Linda was the cook's name. I'll never forget her. She was originally from Attleboro, but then relocated to Harwich. And they had these wonderful dinners, and the folks came in and they got dinner and a show. And they brought me in, let me see, the first year I think was 14. Yeah, it was 14. No, it's 13. 13 they brought me in, because they used to bring me in for like 4 shows every year. I did like the three different variations of Elvis, the red, blue, and white suits. I did Neil Diamond, I did Jukebox Memories, I did Jimmy Buffett, I did Cowboy Sam, I did Stars and Stripes, which is my patriotic music. I did a lot for them. And I even did a mixed bag, where it's just like a little bit of like this and that, a little bit of everything. And they ended up booking me a total, I think it was like 12 or 13 shows over the years. I mean, that one summer, summer of 14, they had me come in like 6 times. I mean, they brought me in a lot. They brought me in more than anyone, anyone in Massachusetts, let alone Cape Cod. And they were the last Cape Cod Senior Center I played before I moved to Florida. I did the Stars and Stripes show in 17, May of 17. That was the last show I did for Harwich. And the last show I did on Cape Cod, talk about coming full circle, literally 3 days before we moved, I did Elvis in the gold and black early Elvis incarnation. TJ and Talitha from Ruby's, you guys were there. You guys came to see the show. Nancy Russo came when I did the blue, the second year, when I did Elvis the Blue show. So I want to drop the names of friends who came to support me over the years. But yeah, my last show on Cape Cod was full circle. It was for Arts Alive. And of course, I have to mention too that in the summer of 2015, back to the band shell, a dream was realized when Kat Jones decided, in addition to the Summer of Love, she put together On-Set Rocks, in which it was 5 or 6 acts that came. They were all bands except for the opening act, the Elvis Experience, in the blue suit. Those pictures are on my Facebook page as well. And it was a good way to open that show, that multi-act show. And it was also a good way to fulfill a dream for me. And to this day, Kat Jones, Christine, and Paul Mascot are the 3 names that I have to thank for getting me going on Cape Cod. Because without Kat, Paul, and Christine, I never would have made it there. I was just trying to get booked at the band shell, and ultimately that happened. But it began with Arts Alive, with Christine and Paul, and then later on Marilyn Rowland took over booking the entertainment. She booked me the last 2 years I was there. 4 Elvis suits, but I did the white one twice, so I ended up doing 6 years there altogether. That's quite an accomplishment, really. So yeah, I did start in 11, actually. Yeah, did start in 2011. Wow. Because right up until, like I said, right up until a few days before we moved. And then 1 year it got canceled because of weather. So yeah, that was a time. And I look back at Cape Cod with a lot of fond memories, all the different shows and all the different buildings that I played there, all the different towns. The only towns that I never hit, because I ended up doing Mashpee too. And Sandwich, yeah, I did Sandwich. Jan Timmons booked me in Sandwich a few times. Elvis, Neil Diamond, Jimmy Buffett. And I did Elvis down in Mashpee too. So really the only towns that I missed were Eastham, Truro, Provincetown, and Wellfleet. I hit every other town on Cape Cod. And while I never hit the Bourne COA, I did do a Bourne Manor Nursing Home for many years. Like 7 or 8 years I played for them. So yeah, Cape Cod was a great experience, a great time. One little side note though that I have to throw in, and a lot of people who know me will appreciate this. Every time I would play in every time I would play in Harwich, the Monday Night Supper Club series, on the way home. Now, if you know Cape Cod, Harwich is way down. Now how the Cape shapes like an elf shoe, it's kind of at the heel of the shoe, so to speak. So it's way down the Cape. And I could have stopped at any restaurant I wanted on the way home for supper. I chose to stop at Mark Anthony's after every single show in Harwich, without fail. Always had to stop and get my pepperoni or sausage pizza and my Coca-Cola over at Mark Anthony's every time. Because that's where I always went after the beach, when I would hang out at Onset Beach. But if I played in Harwich, I would drive that 45 minutes to an hour, whatever it was, to stop and have pizza at the, Katie's barking at something. I would stop there to have pizza at Mark Anthony's after every show. Some people thought I was crazy, but hey, I know what I like. I miss Cape Cod tremendously. I miss Mark Anthony's tremendously. And after every Arts Alive show or every Falmouth show, Seafood Sam's. Missed that place too. That was a great place to eat also. My family and I, Ari and Lisa and I, we loved eating there. Great seafood and just great memories of Cape Cod. You know, I looked forward to summer, especially because I knew that was going to be a big season for me on the Cape, and the wonderful shows and wonderful people that I met in the time that I was there. And also want to remember Michelle Boris, who was the office manager at the Dennis Senior Center, who did all my booking. And she unfortunately passed away after about the third or fourth show I had done there, and quite suddenly too. But Michelle Boris, Jan Timmons, Barbara Ann Foley, all the different directors down there. If I forget people's names, I'm sorry. But there was just so many. Christine Foisey. There was so many people I'd worked with down there. But again, Kat Jones, Christine and Paul Mascott, Marilyn Rowland. You know, y'all got it. Marilyn joined later, but really y'all got the ball rolling for me and kept it rolling for me. You know, Marilyn picked up the baton from Christine and Paul. So that's my story of Cape Cod in a nutshell. Let me know if you guys feel free to ask questions or leave some comments. If you enjoyed the interview, let me know. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And don't forget, 1 week from today on the 28th, right here in my apartment, we're going to take a trip to the 80s, get the DeLorean fired up. We're going to have a great time. Great Scott. We're going to sing the new wave and rock and roll and pop and all the hits of the 80s. So Vic signing off and saying thank you again for watching. See if we can get this thing